Hello, everyone, and welcome back. What's happening right now, what's building behind the scenes, and why the foundation being laid today could completely transform everything we thought we knew about this asset. So sit tight because what's coming next for XRP could be one of the most important shifts we've ever seen in crypto history. The XRP Ledger's smart contract feature is now live for developers to test on AlphaNet, a special testing network. This is a big step forward. For years, people said the XRP Ledger was missing one thing: smart contracts. That's no longer true. This upgrade adds built-in layer 1 smart contracts directly to the XRP ledger, combining the flexibility of EVM-style contracts with the speed and efficiency that XRP is known for. In plain terms, this changes the game. Developers can now build directly on top of the XRP ledger without relying on external blockchains. That means DeFi, NFTs, tokenized assets, and entire ecosystems can now live natively inside the XRP network. And the more projects that launch here, the more value and utility flow straight into XRP itself. That's what long-term growth really looks like. Not hype, not rumors, but actual adoption. Now, here's where things get interesting. A lot of people are talking about a repeat of the 2017 to 2018 XRP run, the one that took XRP from fractions of a penny all the way up to around $3.84. Some are drawing lines on the chart saying if we match that cycle exactly, XRP could hit 4 or even 5 figures. There are posts throwing out numbers like $1,700 per coin. It's bold, but instead of guessing, let's think strategically. To get to $1,700, XRP would need a market cap that surpasses global banking liquidity. And while anything is possible in a world where everything goes digital, let's focus on what's actually unfolding in front of us. A 50 to 100 XRP during this next cycle. That's not fantasy. That's within the realm of strong. Data-driven possibility if you understand what's fueling this next wave. And speaking of understanding, if you want to know how the top 1% are positioning themselves right now, how they think, how they move, and how they prepare for this kind of wealth shift, then you need to check out the XRP Millionaire Blueprint. It breaks down the millionaire mindset, positioning strategies, and life-changing pathways that can set you up for massive success when this market fully turns. It's all linked for you right now in the pinned comment below. Now, back to the charts and catalysts. XRP has always moved in cycles of disbelief, accumulation, and explosion. And if you look closely at the current structure, we're sitting right at the midpoint where the disbelief ends and the recognition phase begins. Every time in history this setup has appeared, when the RSI resets, volume compresses, and long-term holders stop selling. XRP has moved in waves that shattered expectations. But this time, it's different, not because of emotion, but because of infrastructure. For the first time ever, the XRP ledger is becoming a full ecosystem with smart contracts, side chains, and institutional rails all aligning at once. This is what analysts mean when they talk about the utility phase of crypto, where the tokens that actually do something take the spotlight. Think about what XRP is built to do. It's designed to be the world's bridge currency, connecting every asset, every currency, every form of value. Whether it's tokenized real estate, central bank digital currencies, stable coins, or fiat, XRP is the universal translator between them all. It doesn't care what you're moving. It just moves it faster, cheaper, and securely across any border. And now as regulatory clarity improves and the conversation around cross-border payments shifts from if to when, XRP's role becomes obvious, the technology is ready. The partnerships are already global. The final missing link was developer adoption. And now with smart contracts live on AlphaNet, that final piece is falling into place. People forget how early we still are. Institutions haven't even begun their large-scale positioning yet. ETFs are still being discussed. Global liquidity corridors are still being activated. And while everyone's distracted by daily price movements, the big money is quietly preparing. That's what always happens right before the breakout. Now, let's talk about the 5,000 XRP question. Or should I say the 5,000 XRP question? I keep seeing people say, if I hold 5,000 XRP, will I be a millionaire by 2026? Let's break that down logically. For that to happen, XRP would need to hit around $200. Could it happen if institutional inflows through ETFs come in higher than projected, if global adoption scales faster than expected, and if Ripple continues locking in key partnerships? Yes, that's absolutely within range. But the real answer isn't in the number of tokens. It's in the mindset and positioning. Buy what you can afford. Stack what aligns with your strategy, because the real power comes from understanding the system before the crowd. That's where life-changing opportunities are made. We've seen this movie before. Back in December 2020, when the SEC lawsuit dropped, everyone thought it was over for XRP. People dumped their bags, wrote it off, moved on. But the ones who understood the bigger picture, who knew that the fundamentals hadn't changed, they accumulated more. And when the case eventually turned in Ripple's favor, the tide flipped overnight. Now we're seeing the same setup again, this time with clarity, smart contracts, and global interoperability all converging. The stage is set for something the market has never seen before: real-world liquidity powered by blockchain. And that's what analysts mean when they talk about the institutional catalyst awakening. This isn't about retail hype, it's about financial systems upgrading from outdated rails to instant programmable global liquidity. When that happens, XRP becomes more than a token. It becomes the core of the digital financial network, the bridge between the old world and the new. You can already see the first signs. Ripple's ISO 2022 alignment from day one, the partnerships across banking corridors, the certifications in security and compliance. These aren't retail moves, these are institutional footprints, and they've been building in silence for years. The question now isn't if XRP will move, it's how far it goes once everything activates. Because once the liquidity switch flips, it doesn't turn back off. Just look at Bitcoin's history. Once the institutions arrived, the volatility changed, the base floor rose, and the asset never revisited its old lows again. XRP will follow that same pattern, only this time it's faster, more efficient, and built for the exact use case the financial world is migrating toward. We're standing at the intersection of old money and new infrastructure. That's the moment that separates the crowd from the prepared. XRP is no longer just a payment token. It's becoming a programmable bridge, a settlement layer, and a foundational piece of the new economy. And the funny part, most people still don't see it. They're focused on day-to-day charts, while institutional rails, developer adoption, and cross-border corridors are being finalized behind the scenes. That's why the top 1% always win. They study the structure, not the noise. They build positions before the breakout, not after. So as we move deeper into this next phase of the market cycle, keep your eyes on what matters: adoption, development, and infrastructure. Because once that liquidity floodgate opens, the market won't wait for anyone to catch up. Now, as the new financial rails come online, we're seeing exactly why Ripple and XRP position themselves years ahead of the curve. From the very beginning, Ripple aligned with ISO 2022, the international standard for cross-border financial communication. Most people don't realize how important that is. ISO 20022 isn't just another acronym. It's the foundation of how money will move globally. It's the universal language for payments between banks, governments, and corporations. When Ripple says it's been aligned with ISO 2022 from day one, that's not marketing. That's foresight. Ripple built its entire system with the future in mind, and now that future is becoming reality. We're talking about trillions of dollars that will flow through systems built to speak the ISO language, and XRP is one of the few digital assets ready to operate inside that framework. Think about what that means. As the world moves from legacy SWF systems to modern instant messaging standards, the rails that connect these networks have to be efficient, secure, and universal. Ripple is that bridge, and XRP is the asset that gives that bridge its liquidity. Every time a payment moves across borders using Ripple's technology, there's potential for XRP to facilitate that settlement instantly and at a fraction of the cost. That's why ISO 2022 isn't just a checkbox for compliance. It's a gateway to the future financial system. It opens the door for banks, central banks, and large enterprises to connect with blockchain technology in a standardized way. XRP's alignment with ISO means it's not fighting against the system. It's helping modernize it. and Ripple's commitment to security and transparency strengthens that trust. They've earned SOC 2 certifications, which means their technology meets the strictest standards for privacy, availability, and integrity. That's exactly the kind of trust layer institutions need before they move serious capital on chain. The conversation shifts from retail speculation to infrastructure adoption. You've got to understand when a banking standard changes, it's not just a software update, it's a complete migration of global finance. Every bank, every payment rail, every institution is now upgrading to a unified language, and XRP is sitting right in the middle of that upgrade. Now let's connect that to the broader ecosystem, because Ripple and XRP are not the only ISO 2022 aligned assets. There's a group of digital currencies being built with the same standards, each designed to handle a specific part of the financial puzzle. Together, they form what many call the ISO ecosystem. At the top, you have XRP and XLM. XRP focuses on bank-to-bank payments. The big institutional corridors, XLM or Stellar, is more about person-to-person transactions, remittances, and smaller scale transfers. They're like siblings in the same mission, one moving institutional money, the other moving individual money. And if XRP runs, XLM usually follows. History has proven that correlation multiple times. Then you have Quant QNT, the glue that holds it all together. Quant over ledger technology is designed to connect different blockchains so they can communicate with each other. Think of it as the bridge between bridges. As more financial systems go digital, interoperability becomes essential. And Q&T is the backbone that can make these systems speak to one another. Next up, XDC, the digital trade titan. XDC focuses on trade finance, the trillion-dollar sector that powers imports, exports, and corporate settlements. By digitizing trade documents and enabling blockchain-based verification, XDC is solving one of the most outdated, paper-heavy systems in the global economy. That's real-world use case adoption. And when XDC starts running on the same global rails as XRP, the entire network strengthens. Then there's IOTA, built for the Internet of Things and machine economy. The future world where machines talk to each other, send microtransactions, and operate in real time. As AI grows and automation becomes standard, IOTA's fearless and scalable structure fits perfectly into that model. Imagine a world where vehicles, devices, and sensors can transact value instantly. That's IOTA's domain. Now look at Hedera, HBA, enterprise-grade, energy-efficient, and built for massive scalability. HAR focuses on institutional-grade governance with partners like Google, IBM, and Boeing sitting at its table. Its structure allows for enterprise adoption without compromising on performance. Ripple and Hedera share a similar growth path, both focused on real-world partnerships and both gaining traction while the rest of the market was sleeping. And of course, there's Algorand Algo, another low-fee, high-speed blockchain with serious ambitions in finance and DeFi. Algo's pure proof-of-stake design allows transactions to finalize instantly with near-zero energy cost. As the world focuses on sustainability and carbon-neutral finance, chains like Algorand will become key players in the digital infrastructure landscape. Then there's Cardano ADA, which has evolved from an academic project into a serious platform with smart contracts, staking, and a growing ecosystem. Charles Hoskinson's renewed focus on collaboration and partnerships, including outreach toward interoperability with Ripple and other ISO-aligned assets, shows that the future of finance won't be about competition, it'll be about integration. Each of these assets, XRP, XLM, QT, XDC, IOTA, HBR, Algo, and ADA, fills a different but interconnected role. Together, they're forming the backbone of what many call the new financial internet, a network where money, data, and value move as easily as information moves today. And at the heart of that system sits XRP, because it was designed to be the bridge between all of them. Ripple's technology doesn't just connect banks, it connects value systems. Whether it's fiat, stablecoins, or CBDCs, XRP can move it all seamlessly. Now, when you take a step back and look at the timing, ISO 2022 activation, institutional inflows, developer expansion, smart contract integration, and ETF discussions. It all points toward one thing: convergence. Every part of this ecosystem is lining up simultaneously, and history tells us what happens next. The moment infrastructure, clarity, and liquidity converge, that's when explosive growth begins. This is why charts right now look eerily similar to 2017, but this time the foundation is solid. Back then, XRP's rise was driven by excitement and discovery. This time, it's being driven by utility and adoption. Back then, people were guessing what XRP might do. Now, institutions are building on it, and while most retail investors are focused on the daily candle moves, institutions are setting up long-term positions that will drive the next multi-year wave. These positions aren't about flipping for short-term profits, they're about securing strategic access to the infrastructure of the new financial system. That's why you'll start seeing more integration announcements, more testing networks, and more corridors going live. Ripple has been quietly building global liquidity pathways from Asia to the Middle East, from Europe to Latin America. Each one of those corridors strengthens XRP's use case, and once utility kicks in, price always follows. We've seen this cycle unfold countless times across history. When breakthrough technology finally meets real-world adoption, growth accelerates at lightning speed. Think about how the internet transformed once broadband became widespread, or how smartphones reshaped daily life once app ecosystems matured. Those moments marked the inflection points when innovation turned into unstoppable momentum. XRP's ecosystem is now standing at that same threshold. The rails are built, the global standards are in place, and the institutions are prepared to move. What once seemed like potential is now entering its execution phase, where real utility, liquidity, and adoption converge. This is the moment markets typically underestimate, right before exponential growth begins. All it takes is a single spark, one major integration, one ETF approval, or one wave of institutional inflows, and the entire network effect activates. The liquidity moves faster, the use cases multiply, and value starts to flow like it was always meant to. That's why this moment in time is so critical. We're watching the world transition from traditional finance to real-time tokenized finance. The rails are being replaced in front of our eyes, and XRP is sitting directly in the center of that transformation. And what's most fascinating is how all of this connects. XRP bridging the value layer, Q and T connecting blockchains, X DC powering trade, IOTA linking machines, and HAR and algo scaling enterprise networks. It's not one coin replacing another, it's a network forming, an interoperable digital programmable world of value. When you see it from that perspective, XRP's role becomes undeniable. It's not just part of the system, it's the key that makes the system work. It's the first asset designed to connect everything of value from digital currencies to tokenized assets under one unified global standard. And that's exactly where this story heads next. Because while the technology is now ready, what's coming next is the true catalyst, the awakening of institutional liquidity, and the moment XRP fulfills its original design, becoming the world's bridge currency at scale. This is not financial advice. Now, as we step into this next phase, what many call the institutional catalyst awakening is already unfolding. The quiet accumulation period is ending. The signs are everywhere. From Ripple's expanding partnerships with global banks to governments openly discussing on-chain settlement systems, the infrastructure is nearly ready, and liquidity is preparing to flow too. We're witnessing the shift from crypto being a speculative market to crypto becoming financial infrastructure. And that's where XRP leads. It's not about hype or memes. It's about solving trillion-dollar problems that have existed for decades. The global payment system has been outdated for years. Transfers that take 3 days and cost 6% of the total amount don't make sense anymore. XRP fixes that with real-time, low-cost transactions that settle in seconds. When institutional money starts using XRP for its intended purpose to move liquidity globally, the effect on demand becomes exponential. Because XRP isn't just traded, it's used every transaction, every settlement, every bridge of value increases utility. And that's what drives sustainable price growth. And we're not talking about small money, we're talking about global payment corridors handling trillions in volume every single day. That's why Ripple's partnerships with banks and payment providers matter so much. When those rails activate on a large scale, XRP becomes part of the global liquidity engine. That's when adoption turns into dominance. Institutions have waited years for regulatory clarity, and we're finally seeing it take shape. The major lawsuits are closing. New rules are defining what qualifies as a digital asset, and countries are announcing frameworks that welcome blockchain-based settlement. This clarity removes the last major obstacle for large players to move in, and when they do, they won't be buying XRP like retail traders, they'll be integrating it directly into the flow of capital. That's how markets permanently shift. Once big liquidity moves in, it stays. The volatility drops, the floor rises, and XRP transitions from being an investment to becoming a core utility asset of the global financial system. Think of it this way. Bitcoin proved digital value could exist. Ethereum proved decentralized applications could work. XRP is proving that global money can move instantly and efficiently. That's the ultimate use case. And once global adoption starts, there's no turning back. We're entering an era where every asset will be tokenized: stocks, real estate, bonds, commodities, everything. When that happens, all those assets will need a bridge to move between networks, systems, and countries. That bridge is XRP. It doesn't just connect banks, it connects the new digital economy. And this is where the real acceleration begins. Ripple's on-demand liquidity ODL corridors are expanding every quarter, connecting banks, payment providers, and markets that were once isolated by slow settlement systems. Each new corridor adds liquidity depth, allowing value to move across borders in seconds instead of days. Meanwhile, central banks and financial institutions are testing CBDCs on Ripple's private ledger, integrating real-time settlement capabilities directly into national financial infrastructures. These tests aren't isolated. They're the early stages of a global network forming beneath the surface. As more participants join, the connections multiply, strengthening XRP's role as the universal bridge asset. The entire design of XRP was to make value move as easily as information, instant, borderless, and frictionless. Now that vision is unfolding at scale, transforming XRP from a digital asset into the backbone of an interconnected global settlement system. We've seen this pattern in every major financial evolution. Technology first, adoption second, mass integration third. Right now, XRP is entering that third stage. The tech is proven, adoption is growing, and institutional integration is underway. This is the kind of setup that turns early conviction into generational wealth. And while the majority of people still see XRP as just another crypto, those who understand the infrastructure, the ISO standards, the developer upgrades, the institutional footprints, they see what's coming. It's not just a price move. It's a global transformation. Because when XRP begins powering the rails of international payments, the price won't move based on emotion. It'll move based on necessity. Liquidity will demand value. Every corridor will require XRP. Every settlement will depend on it. And when that happens, price will follow function. We've already seen how fast markets reprick once they grasp an asset's real utility. It's sudden, decisive, and it leaves most investors chasing the move after it's begun. By the time institutional liquidity floods in, the opportunity window has already closed. That's why positioning early matters, not for hype, but for foresight. Those who understand the shift before it's obvious don't just participate in the next phase of growth, they define it while everyone else scrambles to catch up. The next financial era is digital, tokenized, and borderless. And XRP is the bridge that makes it all work. We are not waiting for the future anymore. It's already here, quietly activating behind the scenes. And soon, the rest of the world will see what XRP holders have known all along. Because this time, it's not about speculation, it's about execution. The network is ready, the world is upgrading, and XRP is standing at the center of it all. The question now isn't if it happens, it's who's prepared when it does. If you want to understand exactly how the top 1% are positioning themselves for this shift, the mindset, the strategy, and the pathway to life changing wealth, check out the XRP Millionaire Blueprint.